Tiny Tina's Assault on Dragon Keep, a Wonderlands One-Shot Adventure, is a really long name for a standalone DLC. This Borderlands 2 DLC was originally released on June 25th, 2013, but the standalone version we are taking a look at today was released on November 9th, 2021. We will be reviewing this as though it was a standalone game, but we have also played through Borderlands 2 for insight. I've been waiting to play this for 9 years. Will it live up to expectations? Is it possible to roll for initiative? Is this standalone DLC worth your time? And one last question. Explosions? Borderlands was the original looter shooter. Borderlands 2 was the original looter shooter. Tiny Tina's Assault on Dragon Keep is an original expansion of all that original greatness. Looting and shooting your way through Dungeons and Dragons has never been more fun, but not everything is golden here. Starting off, you have the option between all 6 Vault Hunters from Borderlands 2. You have Axton the Commando, Salvador the Gunzerker, Zero the Assassin, Krieg the Psycho, Maya the only one who actually matters, and Gage, the one I played as. Each Vault Hunter has their own unique abilities and skill tree, and the opportunity for multiple playthroughs here is plentiful. It should be noted that each Vault Hunter is capped at level 35, so you can't go full badass, but I was suitably overpowered as a level 16 Gage when I finished up my playthrough. At its core, this is just Borderlands 2. There's a bajillion guns to get your hands on, and each one does something crazy. The fun is in the random combinations you find to complement your skill set. Like this explosive assault rifle I found, it worked with Gage's Anarchy Ricochet to make clearing rooms a breeze. Or this sniper rifle that was woefully inaccurate with my skill tree, but hit like a truck when a bullet finally connected. Unconventional setups can be made very useful with the right combinations. Trading out guns is easy, stats are compared at a glance, and you can tap to add to inventory or hold to swap guns immediately. This also works for grenade mods, shields, character mods, and so much more. The game does a lot to make sure you always feel nice and powerful, and that you're always getting your hands on a new toy to play with. Sometimes the game does shoot itself in the foot, however, like the time I found this super powerful sniper rifle halfway through my playthrough, and it was far more powerful than anything else I came across. There is a solid main quest that will have you blasting your way to the titular Dragon Keep, but there are also some cool side quests if that's your thing. Gameplay does devolve into just shooting enemies, but the guns feel good to fire, your abilities provide a nice variety to combat, and the game has a solid variety of enemies for you to face off against. Unlimited sprint goes a long way in making the game feel fluid, and there is a dedicated button to hoover up all of the loot in a given area, which alleviates some of the tedium, but not all of it. You still have to open chests one by one. Same with Iridium, the rare currency. This, the crystals and ammo really should just be auto pickup. If you finish the game and want to keep building your character, True Vault Hunter mode lets you go again with more powerful enemies and even more loot. Finally, there's the option to play with up to 3 friends for more skills, more guns, and more loot. I imagine this would be some great fun if I had friends of my own. The big issue I had whilst playing was that this just feels like a clunkier, dated Borderlands 3. And well, yeah. There was a 7-year gap between Borderlands 2 and 3. I miss the crazier weapons, the ability to slide, and the overall polish 3 had over this. With this standalone being used as a marketing tool for Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, which I'm inclined to believe will be in closer to gameplay to Borderlands 3 than 2, I think going the extra mile and adding that layer of polish to this package would have gone a long way. Gameplay has a tendency to get insanely busy. Gunfire, ranged attacks, damage numbers, status effects, radio heads, and much more clutter the screen and can make it borderline impossible to see what is actually going on in a given fight. It is also hilariously easy to become overpowered towards the end of the game. I'm aware that Gage in particular can get out of hand in the right hands. Deathtrap was almost playing the game for me in the beginning, and by the end he was even more broken. It is fun, don't get me wrong, but I felt myself getting a little bored with walking through the game like I owned the place. One last note, if you dislike spiders in your games, you're gonna have a bad time with this one. The game at its core is fun, but it is hilariously imbalanced and feels dated after all this time. At the end of the day, it did do its job in getting me hungry for Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, but I am left wondering what could have been had with a fresh coat of paint. We're giving the gameplay here a 4 out of 5. This whole package is gorgeous. First off, the cel-shaded art style hasn't aged a day. Each environment has a unique look and feel, and it all just pops. Couple that in with the environment changing in tandem with Tiny Tina's Dungeon Master train of thought, and I just can't get enough. Each gun looks cool, and whilst there aren't a bajillion different models, each base model looks good and has enough modifications that you shouldn't ever pick up the exact same looking gun twice. You have your standard skeletons and dwarfs to fight, but enemies have distinct looks and it is always easy to tell what you're fighting. Health bars, damage numbers, and critical/resist text goes a long way in aiding you in fights whilst adding to the feel of the game. Music falls into average territory, but each track serves the environment it accompanies well and adds to the action. I'm going to keep this concise because the game has some cool tricks up its sleeve, and bottom line, it looks and sounds great. There are some artistic choices that serve the gameplay tenfold, and it all works for the package. Assault on Dragon Keep gets a 5 out of 5 for some solid art direction. This is where we run into difficulty reviewing this as a standalone piece. Tiny Tina's Assault on Dragon Keep is a capstone to the original Borderlands 2 story, and shows how Tina deals with the grief of losing Roland in the fight against Jack. The game starts out by giving you a quick rundown of the Borderlands 2 plot, and I'm glad that it's here, but it doesn't have the same effect. Some references in the story are flat out left without context if you haven't played Borderlands 2. The story as it stands has some good ideas, but trips on the execution. The cast from the main game is retooled in a fun way, but the plot is essentially Borderlands 2 Diet Edition. This is a short DLC, and narrative isn't given the space to really breathe. The radio play that is the story is usually drowned out by endless gunfire and the screams of death. As a standalone narrative, I'm actually pretty disappointed. I know Borderlands as a series isn't the pinnacle of writing prowess, but there are some fun tales in this universe. The ideas here are good, but ultimately half-baked, and that's before you even consider that all of the context is just non-existent. We're giving the standalone package a 2 out of 5 for its narrative offering. If you've got the context of Borderlands 2, consider it a 3 out of 5. As a standalone package, you're actually getting a lot here. There's a full campaign with extra side quests. You have 6 Vault Hunters to choose from, multiple builds each, and true Vault Hunter mode for when you beat the game. We experienced no bugs whilst playing, but did have a few intermittent frame drops. That's a lot of gameplay with a lot of replayability. Accompanying it are some great settings. Gameplay has some regular settings, as well as some very specific quality of life changes. You can toggle training messages, aim assist, dual request preference, aim toggle and crouch toggle. There are item rotation options and further toggles for trading, Gunzerker auto switch and easy mode. Audio has sliders for music, sound effects and dialogue volume. You can toggle subtitles and also add a background to make them pop more. This is good because it keeps subtitles visible in the chaos. There are also toggles for player callouts and controller audio. Video has a brightness slider and allows you to toggle split screen orientation. You can also determine where your HUD sits with some handy sliders and if it sways with movement. There is a field of view slider and a selection of colorblind presets. Controller settings allow you to invert look, turn, move and strafe. There are separate sliders for X and Y sensitivity and a toggle for pre-shot vibration. You can't rebind controls, but there are a range of controller presets. Overall, I'm impressed. You're getting a small package here, but it's a pretty stuffed package with plenty of tweaks. And for those reasons, it's getting the full 5 out of 5. It took us around 4 hours to complete Tiny Tina's Assault on Dragon Keep. This can easily be played through in one session, but if you want to break it up, there are plenty of checkpoints that serve as autosave locations. This short playtime also suits replayability. If you want to go through as each Vault Hunter, you can get to the meat of the game quickly. There are some points where the game blatantly wastes your time, like this jump puzzle you have to fail repeatedly in order to progress, or the bit where you have to backtrack to Claptrap to talk to him. The game thinks that these moments are funny, and one time, sure, but after multiple instances it just gets annoying. Lampshading the issue by having characters say what's happening is silly does not fix anything. On the other hand, hard drive footprint is really good, clocking in at just over 11 GB. Aside from the time-wasting moments present in the gameplay, I am really happy with the commitment here. The game has a decent respect for your time and hard drive, but falls just short with a 4 out of 5. Tiny Tina's Assault on Dragon Keep is a solid standalone title. It is not a very long game, nor does it have a very well-written story, but the gameplay is endlessly fun, and for that I cannot recommend it enough. If Tiny Tina's Wonderlands is just this, but with the Borderlands 3 polish, then it is safe to say that I am very excited. So get some mates together, crack open some beers, and get your hands on a bajillion guns. Those explosions aren't going to happen on their own.